Hello, my name is Steve Prince, and I'm the Director of Engagement at the Muscarelle Museum at William & Mary. Hey folks, I pray that everyone is doing well in your respective homes, wherever you may be across this nation and around this world. I come to you today with a heavy heart, and the sounds that you just heard was basically right outside of my window as people gathered here at Merchant Square, protesting and speaking from their mouths, Black Lives Matter. So today I'm going to dedicate this video to a time of sharing. I'm going to share with you an art piece that I've created with a process called linoleum cut. It's a floor tile-like material. I'll share this with you at one point on how to do it. I'll make an intricate drawing all over the surface of it. Then I use cutting tools and I cut into the negative space around my positive lines. And once I've done that, I then take a roller and I roll the whole piece up with ink, and I put paper on top of it, and I run it through a press under thousands of pounds of pressure, and I pull the paper back, and I'm revealed with the print. I chose to do this process when I was in grad school because I had the opportunity to not only make one piece of art, but I had the opportunity to make multiple pieces of art that I could disseminate around the world. The idea was that I could encapsulate messages within that work and share those messages with multiple people and spreading the information or spreading good news all around this planet. So today, brothers and sisters, I stand here in solidarity with all of the globe as we sift through the dark with this pandemic. I stand in solidarity with all those who desire to eradicate the disease of racism in our nation. I stand in solidarity with all those who have lost jobs and are trying to make a way out of no way. So, as an act of connection, I plan to hold my breath right now for a moment of silence. The piece I'm going to share with you today is an image that I created, and it's called Rosa Sparks. Now, of course, anybody know anything about the story about the woman named Rosa Parks, you know that I'm making a little play on her name. Rosa Parks is right over here in the right side of the compositional space, and she's sitting down on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and as she's sitting down the bus, you can notice the seat is kind of buckling down below the weight of her body, and as in her posture, as any psychologists will basically tell you that this woman is not going to be moved as her arms are crossed, her legs are crossed, and as her head is turned defiantly towards the bus driver who's trying to tell her to give up her seat. But then if you by further inspection, you better look into the image, and you'll note that she has different elements emblazoned upon her body as a symbol of the protection that I believe that was girding Rosa Parks' body as she refused to give up her seat on that bus. I used an idea coming out of the book of Ephesians where Paul writes, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and things in high places." And I have the letters on side of a shield that has the letters AOG, which represents the armor of God, as she has breastplate that's protecting her heart, as she has things that are shod upon her feet, and she has a halo about her head protecting her mind. You see, when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on that day in 1955, is that they followed behind her and they created a whole movement where people began to walk with picket signs and they refused to ride the buses. People began to walk, they carpooled, they rode bikes, they did whatever they could, but they did not ride those buses. And therefore, they pushed the system to allow for it to bring about an integration, to allow all people to ride the buses wherever they would be and not be forced to the back. I show a sign on the bus and it says, I am. And it alludes to the signs that many of the sanitation workers held that said, I am a man. And on that sign, I removed the a man part and simply left it with I am, because it bespeaks of all of our humanity. It bespeaks of the humanity of those African Americans who were being treated as chattel within this nation. And as I have them breaking and dissolving the whole confines of this bus and causing the system to change itself. But we can look back very fondly upon what Rosa Parks did back on that day in 55, but we also have to look back with very sober eyes to know that something else happened in a year just a few months before she refused to give her receipt, and it took place in Money, Mississippi, as symbolized by this kid wearing a hat and the ghost-like figures with the letters E.T. on his hat. A kid by the name of Emmett Till, who came from Chicago and went down to visit his cousins for the first time. And while he was down there, he apparently made some gesture towards a white woman that caused him to be abducted from the home in which he was staying in, taken and beaten and lynched and thrown into a lake with an engine block tied to his chest. 3 days later, they found him. The mother refused to have a quick burial of her son. And what she called out for was that everyone must see what they did to my child. Jet Magazine published a picture inside of its magazine. And the whole world stood witness to what America was doing to its children. You see, Emmett Till, he was 14 years old. But also in that same bracket of time, you had many other people who were standing in the gap, who was standing and fighting against those injustices, who gave it all. And one of those people was Malcolm X, who was assassinated in 1965 in the Audubon Ballroom up in New York. And over here with the crown upon his body, that's Martin Luther King, who in 1968 lost his life in Memphis, Tennessee. And if you look at the composition, that becomes the front of the bus and this becomes the back of the buses. It also lets us know that yes, they fought those battles and yes, they had many victories, but there's so much more to this battle that must be done. And in the back of this bus are the issues that are going on currently, as Michael Brown with his hands up, don't shoot, stands at the back of the bus, as Trayvon Martin stands here with the Arizona T inside of his hand, and as the letters KOOL is emblazoned upon his body, alluding to Eric Garner when he uttered the words very similar to the words we just heard. He said, I can't breathe. But if we look at the bottom left-hand side of the compositional space, we encounter something that is embedded within the everyday. A mother and her child. I want you to note that the little child has his hand up in the peace sign. And that is an image that you typically see with Mary and Christ. I removed the halos from their heads because I wanted to bespeak of the everyday deities that I believe that each and every one of us are. The everyday sacredness of our bodies. The everyday sacredness of our human connection. That transcends color, that transcends race, and all these superficial things that try its best to separate us. So I believe that the lesson that is embedded within the image is that that was a battle that was fought back in 1955 and went on for decades. And right now, in our faces, we have a fight. I believe, as they did in that time period, that that fight was not done by one group. It is one that will call upon all of us to step up, for all of us to sit down, for all of us to know that we be protected, for all of us know that we shall have a victory on the other side. if we just don't grow weary in doing good. Because, brothers and sisters, the harvest is coming. Peace be with you. Muscarelle in the